My name is Tilbe, and today I am talking about what happens when our cerebellum is damaged. The cerebellum is in the lower back of the brain, and it controls balance and complex actions such as talking and walking. It is a super multitasking organ in the brain. However, it is one of the early evolved, relatively old parts of the central nervous system. Maybe not anatomically, but functionally, it's expected as a transitional organ between consciousness and unconsciousness. Many of the skills we developed over a long period of time and the complex work we do without thinking are done by the cerebellum. It is a master of regular movements. It provides muscle coordinations. For instance, we don't forget to ride a bike because our cerebellum has learned how to do it once. Even if we are not thinking consciously while driving, it changes gear when necessary. If there is something you do better when you are not consciously thinking about it, it's probably because the brain taught it to the cerebellum and left it under its control. To have the talent of Michael Schumacher, for example, you need the cerebellum, not the brain. According to Bastian 2011 in his Moving, Sensing and Learning with Cerebellum Damage, suggests that the cerebellum plays a role in the coordination of voluntary motor functions, maintenance of balance and regulation of muscle tone. It's positioned about the brainstem and towards the posterior region of the brain. Compared to the frontal and temporal lobes and the brainstem, it is relatively well protected against physical injury. Injury to the cerebellum can cause several impairments, especially neurological impairments, including loss of coordination of motor movement, difficult judging distance and when to stop, inability to perform rapid alternative movements, movement tremors, unsteady and weight-based walking, tendency toward and falling. Also, weak muscles, slurred speech, abnormal eye movement can be seen in the damage of cerebellum. It's important to note that the specific symptoms and their severity can vary depending on the extent and location of the cerebellum damage. According to Johns Hopkins Hospital research, the cerebellum, which occupies the top and front parts of the skull, is responsible for controlling various functions such as movement and sensation, speech, thinking, reasoning, memory, vision, and emotions. It is divided into two hemispheres, right and left side. The effect of a damage in the right hemisphere of the cerebellum can include left-sided weakness or paralysis and sensory impairment, left neglected or denial of paralysis, spatial problems, inability to localize or recognize body parts, difficulty with map reading and object finding, and also memory problem. The effect of a damage in the left hemisphere of the cerebellum may include right-sided weakness or paralysis and sensory impairment, problems with speech and language, visual problems, impaired ability in math, organization, reasoning and analysis, behavioral change, and also impaired ability in reading, writing, and learning new information. It's important to note that the specific effects of a cerebellum damage can vary from person to person, and the extent of recovery and rehabilitation potential can also vary person to person.
Can you survive with a damaged cerebellum?
It is impossible to survive with a damaged cerebellum. However, it can present significant difficulties and impairments. The cerebellum is responsible for coordinating voluntary movements, balance, muscle tone, and other functions. The impact of cerebellum damage can vary depending on the extent and location on the injury.
How long is a cerebellum recovery?
In general, the initial stages of recovery may involve acute medical management and stabilization, which can take days to weeks. Moreover, because of the neuroplasticity in the brain, it's possible that brain can recover by itself too, but case will be differentiated people to people.
Can a person live without cerebellum?
No, it means without motor movements. We will not survive without motor movements, and so we do not have a chance to long live without cerebellum. In general, the result of cerebellum damage are as we talk about. The brain was the only organ in our body that could not be solved and kept its mystery. Brain research will continue as long as human beings exist. Maybe years later we can find exact solution to brain damage. However, in today's world, all physical and psychiatric diseases related to the brain have not been fully resolved. Let it be. I'm sure that neuropsychologists, neurologists, and neuroscience will find more permanent solution for the mystical world of the brain in the coming years. Thank you for listening.